Welcome back to Screencast-O-Matic. My name is Mr. Messina, and I'm going to be your guide today on this evolutionary journey. Our topic today is Unit 4, Marine Evolution, and we're going to dive into natural selection, variations, and some genetic mutations. Nothing that's going to give you some metal antimanium claws or let you shoot lasers out of your eyes, but something that's going to help you adapt to the ever-changing ecosystem that we live in. I'll know I've got it when today I can describe the conditions required for natural selection to occur, and I'll know I've got it when I can analyze how factors of natural selection, mutations, speciation contribute to marine evolution. Just a quick reminder, when we get into marine evolution, we get into these next topics, make sure you're looking for those key topics, those key points that I kind of hinted in the last unit about what to take notes on. Right now we're making your study guide for your test, and that's coming up soon. To kick it off, we start with marine evolution, just the basics here. Scientists say that the first organisms were autotrophs, and they lived about 3.5 billion years ago. Autotrophs raised the oxygen levels in the atmosphere from 1% all the way to 21%. This increase of oxygen allowed more life and allowed it to diversify on Earth. Scientists also have a theory that these autotrophs could have began in many places. In our last unit, we talked about autotrophs and how they used two different ways to get energy. They could either use photosynthesis, or they might have used chemosynthesis. Remember, the key word here is chemical. So chemosynthesis happens with these hydrothermal vents that are under the water, like the picture we have here. In marine evolution, we're going to talk about three different topics. We're talking about natural selection, which is the process where organisms with variations that are best suited to their environment are able to survive. And we're also talking about mutation. Not Cyclops, not Gambit, not even Wolverine, but errors, tiny errors in your genetic code, in your DNA sequence, that can either harm the organism or the species or benefit them. And we're also going to talk about the theory of evolution. We talk about the process where organisms change over huge periods of time through the process of natural selection and through the process of mutation. Now, when we talk about natural selection, we're going to talk about the different conditions that are required for natural selection to occur. One of the first conditions of natural selection is a struggle for existence. And that's something that every creature on Earth goes through. Everyone wants to survive. Everyone wants to exist. Every organism is fighting for its own chance to exist. They also may need to develop adaptations or variations of themselves. And it all comes down to Charles Darwin's survival of the fittest. To start off, let's look at natural selection and the struggle for existence. Last unit we talked about carrying capacity. And the carrying capacity was the maximum number of a species or organisms that could live within a certain area. And we said that if that line gets passed, we have some issues. So if more individuals, more species, more organisms are produced that can survive within that ecosystem, which passes that carrying capacity, the effect of the individuals in the population will then compete for food. When we're running out of food, they'll run out of shelter, they'll run out of space to live in. We see here the two bears. They might be fighting over a sandwich. They might be just saying, "Hi, what's up, man? What's going on? I haven't seen you in a while." But more than likely, they're fighting for territory. This is my land. Get out. Continuing on with natural selection, we look at variations and adaptations. The easiest one to look at, I think, is adaptations. And these are, just like you see here with these bird beaks, they're changes, they're hereditary changes that happen over extended periods of time, where these species will actually change a part of them to better suit themselves in that environment in the future. We see some of these here. We have the kiwi, we have woodpecker. The woodpecker will then peck on trees. And what they're doing is they're trying to get to the bugs that are within the trees. And so their beak has to be really hard so that it can hammer through the outside of these trees and get the bugs inside. We don't see the same kind of beak there on a parrot, do we? So these are all adaptations, hereditary changes that happen over a ton of period of time that help that organism, that species, survive, reproduce. Then we see variations. These are the differences that are very slight. This is when we have different organisms that may show some of the same traits, but slightly different. We'll look at that a little more in the future. Of course, we have survival of the fittest. Over the next couple slides, you're going to see a couple examples. We're going to pass them in this screencast here. And you're going to go in, you're going to read the different ones, the different examples here. We're talking about mice, and then we're going to talk about humans. I can tell you this, that in the future there will be questions on the two examples in the next few slides. So take your time. If you do need to pause the video and look at those. First example is on field mice, and we're going to learn why survival of the fittest is used here. Why is that mouse so fat? I'm going to talk about humans a little bit. Human nature is very hard to understand, but we're going to look at some of those driving factors in selection and in natural selection. continuing on, the main purpose of natural selection is that all species will choose the best partner to mate with for what they consider to be desirable traits. This is subconscious. This happens just because. Think about it. When you're looking for your girlfriend or your boyfriend, you're looking for certain traits, certain features that that person has that are desirable for yourself. It happens the same way in our marine species. We'll talk about speciation. This is the creation of a new species from environmental factors. Or when we create a hybrid, which is two different pre-existing animals, species, come together to create something new. And there are different ways to test for this speciation. Most of it's done through DNA sequencing. There's 3 types of evolution through speciation. These are going to be really important for your test. You're going to need to know the differences between the 3 here. We have divergent species, convergent species, and parallel species. These may seem very familiar as they are also best-selling books, but you're going to need to know the ins and outs of these as we move forward. This slide and the next one have 2 videos on them. The first video here is about whales, and we're going to have a little bit about sharks as well coming up. You'll need to go ahead and watch this video as well as this next one here on jellyfish. I'm going to talk about the different speciations of these. And of course, we're going to get into those divergent, convergent, and parallel evolutionary speciation traits. And last but not least, let's look at some sharks. So guys, go ahead and watch those 3 videos. I'll have the links up for you on your OneNote. If you have any questions, just raise your hand.